Stay tuned for another episode of the Coming Soon podcast with Spider.
Hello, everybody. Spider here once again. Coming Soon podcast, being joined by William Perry. My man, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I mean, I know we've been messaging back and forth. I mean, the whole situation going out there in LA. I mean, you're out there in the neck of the woods, man. So tell us.
Yeah, it's been
little-
dicey out here. We're kind of surrounded, but been fortunately very, very safe. We got a big old generator keeping the electricity on when necessary. But I do know a number of folks who've been not just inconvenienced, but fairly well trashed. And it's been nice. The rest of the country's been really reaching out and being very positive about this. And it really makes you feel good when you see your neighbors kind of banded together and, you know, recognizing that, yeah, man, it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter who you are. You can lose everything in a blink of an eye. You know, and a good family friend said, it's probably, he says, you know, I'm in a good spot because I've got insurance and all the other stuff. He said, but it'll probably be 2 years before I have a day was like yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and that's heavy. You know, when you realize
I mean, it is because, like, at the end of the day, you know, we're all people, man. I mean, we go through scenarios, we go through situations. I mean, people think, you know, Hollywood, and they think, you know, hey, it's everything's, you know, the grass is greener out there, man. But I mean,
it's all a matter of degree, babe. You know, I had said to my wife the other night, you know, we sit every now and then we'll go buy a couple of lotto tickets when, you know, it's like $1 billion, and we sit and we dream about all the crap that we would buy.
oh yeah.
And now I know a lot of folks who would really just like to get back what they had.
Yeah.
And it just really gives you a sense of perspective when you're like, yeah, I'd really just like to have my family photo albums back. I'd really just like to have my bed back. You know, I'd like to have really simple, you know, like my toothbrush and not have to start over buying everything from scratch. I mean, even if that's possible, you know, a lot of things can't be restored. Most things, you know, as long as you got your family and your pets and, you know, that kind of stuff, but it's still gotta suck. You know, people lost literally their cars, their jobs, everything because the neighborhood they are in wiped out too. So that means their job's gone, their cars are gone, everything. So it's a big rebuild, and that's
You
going to
see,
be a
and I
lot
was gonna say too, man, it's kind of, you know, it's a scenario. I mean, it's home. It's just like I tell people. I mean, when it comes to home, I feel comfortable. I feel safe. This is what I can control. And then all of a sudden, it's gone. You know, and it's like, okay, now what?
One of the few things you feel like you can count on.
Yeah.
You know, and then that gets yanked out from under you. Like I said, I've heard people saying, "Oh, these rich people," you know, rich is a scale. You know, I mean, compared to where some people are down in other countries, I live like a billionaire. You know, but there are people who are plenty wealthier than me and plenty poorer than me. You know, it's that violation. You know, it's like, gosh, I thought I knew where the world was. You know, I thought I knew where I stood here, and then all of a sudden something can be yanked out from under you. And whether you got rent tomorrow or whether you're looking for a meal, you know, it's I don't care where you are. That stuff hits hard. So I hope folks out there recognize that it ain't all glamour out here. When people talk about how much money we have, it's like, yeah, you don't know what it costs to live here. Our gas is probably twice what anybody else's. Our rents are 3 times what anybody else's are, and you know, it's got its positives, it's got its negatives. So
No, for sure, man. And you know, it's just like I tell people. I mean, when it comes to kindness, I mean, that's the easiest, you know, least expensive thing you can do. Is just be kind. Just be courteous. Just be. Yeah. But let me ask you, I mean, of course, you know, when it comes to I mean, home life. I mean, right now you guys are healthy. You guys are safe. I mean, like you said, just weather's coming as far as the cold weather. You said, right?
Yeah. We're
Oh, I think I lost you, my man. Hold on, guys. I know he's out there in LA. I'm hoping the internet isn't affected. My man, if you're still on there, give me a second. Let it rebuff.
We're back, I hope.
Okay. Yes. We're back. Yeah, I think I lost you for a split second. I think you were talking about the internet being on and off out there right now.
I am hearing just a couple of noises here and
yeah, I think your internet keeps going on and off. Let me see if I can reset.
Well, if you're out there, audience, we're here, I swear. And we'll be back with you in a second.
Let me see. You got it? I think you're back on, but you keep kind of fading off real quick. Give it a second, guys. Of course, being joined by William Perry. We're having a few technical difficulties. The guy is out there in LA. I'm reaching out here in Texas, hoping that the internet picks up. But just give it a second. I've got the guy on. Of course, we're going to be talking about what he's worked on as far as projects. I mean, being a stuntman, an actor, now not an author. So of course, I've got questions coming up. Give it a second, guys. Let me wait for him to jump back on, but I just want to thank everybody. Of course, we are the Coming Soon podcast. I am here in San Antonio, Texas. I'm reaching out to the masses, of course, sharing this on the Freddy Krueger group page. So guys out there, men and women, of course, join up. William Perry will be jumping back on. We lost signal right quick, but give it a second. We're going to be talking about his past projects. Of course, the man is an author, so we're going to be talking about his book. A couple other things that he's been working on that are coming up. So please join us. All right, guys, we're going to be joining right quick. Of course, I am here in San Antonio. We got the man back on.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there.
No, I think internet, obviously, but yeah, man. I mean, as far as what you have going on, I mean, I did have questions. I mean, as far as for yourself, I mean, when did everything take off for you as a stunt actor?
Gosh, that's a good question. How long ago was that? I guess around about 1985, 1986. You probably weren't born, but it's true. I was just a punk actor. I'm about 5'6". At the time, I weighed about 125 pounds. Little tiny guy, and a pretty strong actor. But I would get auditions, and they'd say, "Man, you're just too small. You're just too little." All our girls are 5'8", 5'9", and there are shorter actors than me, and but they just said, it's going to be a challenge. And then a buddy of mine was working with Wes Craven, doing lots of movies. A guy named Tony Caesar, stunt coordinator friend, and he said, "I got this kid, man. He looks just like you. 5'6", brown hair, brown eyes, 125 pounds, arms like a little skinny girl, and you got that physique that would really work." Because all the other stunt guys were like gymnasts.
Yeah.
Like ex-gymnasts. And so they had big guns and big chest, and that's not me, never was. And so he said, "I got this job for you. You want to do it?" And I thought, it's a shot. It gets me out in front of camera. Sure. And then he'd say, "There's a lot of work out there. Not a lot of stunt guys your height." And he said, "Can you do stuff?" And I'm like, "Well, I was a martial artist, a skateboarder."
We're losing you again, my man. Sorry, guys. Internet hiccup. Mr. William, if you can hear me, I lost volume right quick. See if I can get you back on real quick, sir. Hold on. Let me add him back on. Sorry, guys. We're having technical difficulties. Of course, I am here in San Antonio, Texas. The man is in LA. I just want to go ahead and jump on and have him jump back on and join us. But for those that are following, I appreciate you guys. And I was hoping the internet wouldn't be too bad. I know with everything going on out there in LA, I'm not sure that's part of what's going on, but let me see if I can get him back on here real quick. And for those that are joining us on the Freddy Krueger group page, of course, follow up. I'm going to be getting a couple more actors with the franchise jumping on. So this is something that I'm working on pretty steadily. Tonight, I do have Bill Perry. He's jumped on, I swear. He was here earlier. He's been thrown off twice because of the internet. I'm hoping that it doesn't continue. But give it a split second and we'll have the guy join back up. We're going to be talking about a couple of projects. I mean, of course, the guy's been working on quite a bit.
I'm back.
Yes. This is the... I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not sure what's going on, but...
Yeah. had this here and there, just over the years, but hopefully we're back for a while.
No, yes, sir. But yes, I mean, as far as you're talking about how you fit the physique that many didn't, of course. So I mean, that played in your favor, obviously, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I got so much grief all through my high school years. All the other guys, I wasn't the athlete, football player, basketball player at my height or weight. And years down the line, all my buddies are like, "Oh, dude, you're a stuntman?" I'm like, "Yeah."
I think I lost you again, brother. I think I lost you one more time, sir. Let me see if I can. I'm gonna see if I can reset it real quick. Give me a second. Um, hold on. Let me.
Well, there I am.
There you go. I can hear you. It's just the visual keeps going on and off. Sorry, guys. I'm not sure why this is happening. It's bad timing. The internet keeps going on and off. So, of course, we're going to go ahead and see if I can reset real quick. Get the man back on here. Yeah. And go ahead and take him off right quick. But, of course, being joined by William Perry. The internet seems to be our nemesis right now. I might have to go Instagram Live. I'm going to see if he wants to jump on Instagram right quick, and I'll go through my phone. But I wanted to have him on here, so let me see if I can get him back on right quick. But I am in San Antonio, Texas. For those that are watching, of course, my guest, William Perry, is out there in LA. Let's see if I can get him back on. If not, I will have to go through Instagram Live. I don't want to do that, but let's see what else we can do real quick, guys. Let me have him jump back on, and I'm going to go ahead and go on the Instagram. For those that are watching, you're more than welcome to join. It is under Coming Soon Podcast. I'll be jumping on, inviting the man so we can get a conversation going. I did have a couple of, or more than a couple of questions. Of course, I want you to see, as far as his venture through the years, being a stuntman, getting into the whole acting gig, of course, and being an author, because I do want to get some questions on that book. Let's see if I can get him on real quick. Here we go. By his hands is the actual published book that we're going to be talking about. For those that are following, I'm going to see if I can jump on Instagram Live and bring the man back on. I do apologize. The internet, William Perry is in LA. For some reason, we're having a lot of bad connections. Not too happy about that. And unfortunately, it's happening. For the most part, some past guests, especially in LA or Washington, for some reason, the signal is not as strong. So we're always having hiccups on it. But we are going to attempt to go on Instagram Live. So I'm going to invite the man to jump out there and follow up. But let me go ahead and get off of this one real quick. See if I can find him on Instagram real quick. Okay, I was just looking for you on Instagram.
No, I was. It's the amazing. You see my disappearing act. I'm going into magic.
I know. I was gonna say. I thought, wow, I said it must be a casting call or something. I see. Staying busy.
No. She left hours ago.
But I was gonna
it's.
say.
I think it's too many people on our internet here. I got to kick some people out.
I know. And I was just telling the people. I mean, when it comes to California, I do have fighters that I interview out there, and a lot of times the signal is not as strong, so it does drop. And I do apologize.
Yeah.
I mean, it is out of my control.
Yeah, me too. Sorry about it. This normally happen. Anyway, back where we were. We're talking stunt stuff. We're talking, getting a start. So yeah, I got my start from Wes Craven of all people, kind of the big name in the biz of horror films. And back then, because they were chopping up teenagers like sushi, there was a lot of work for a little guy. And so I got a lot of different opportunities just because of my height and weight. Because there was a big accident happened back just before I got my start on a movie called The Twilight Zone, and a couple of kids were killed. It was really horrible stuff, and an actor was killed as well. And so they said no more kids on set.
Yeah.
If they don't have to be there, they're not going to be there. And so that meant for me, at least, that there was a lot more opportunities because they weren't going to put the kids in there, even if it was something really simple.
Right.
It's just like, you know what? No worries. I'll take your money. And it was a pretty good gig. I didn't have to audition anymore. People would just say, hey, you available on Thursday? Yeah. All right. We'll see you then. Bring your stuff and we'll see you there. So really, really good timing.
No, for sure, man. I mean, it was unfortunate what happened, but I mean, yeah, I mean, safety first. I mean, especially if they are underage. I know I've talked to a few actors, and for the most part, everybody brings up, you got 20, 30-year-olds playing high school kids, but that's what it is,
I was 27, and I looked like I was about 14, and I got a lot of gear. I got a lot of gigs because of that. Because even then, if they had there was a movie called 18 Again, where I was supposed to be a college student. And one of the guys said to me, you think you could play a college student? And I said, yeah. And he's like, how old are you? I was like, 27. He goes, oh, shit, I thought you were like 16. And I thought you were going to have to try to act older. But they had me in this race at the end of the movie. And so they needed somebody that looked like they were in college age. They had to be more than 18 because they wanted you to work nights and long hours. And they can't do that when you're a kid without paying more.
Oh, yeah.
But, always good stuff. Always fun to get out there and work.
And let me ask you, because I mean, I'm going to share this real quick. And this is actually, I think I got it on the wrong one. Something that you're going to be, you're scheduled to be in. You're going to be making a convention. And the reason I wanted to post this was because of the films that are on there. I mean, I just had questions as far as maybe behind the scenes, footage. I mean, something that happened, maybe Return of the Living Dead 2, per se. I mean, was there anything funny that you can recall that?
Oh God, one of my favorite stories from Return of the Living Dead. I don't know if I should say the stunt coordinator's name. He's a good guy, and I don't mean to embarrass this guy, but there's this scene where it's one of the final scenes, and there's this big window above us, and this big electrical transformer is going to fall through the ceiling and electrocute me. Well, I'm looking up, and I see this little piece of blue tape. It's not supposed to be there. And so I said to the stunt coordinator, hey, there's a piece of blue tape. Do you think the camera's going to pick that up? He goes, yeah, I'll climb up there. And he's reaching for it. Oh, and he just falls right through it, like 8 feet onto a tabletop that was not a breakaway. Wow. And we all just went, oh, and he landed. That's probably a $10,000 piece of glass, which they only had one of. They only had one. And so they had to kind of shut everything down. And number one, he had to kind of grab his pride and try to put it back together after that. And just, horribly embarrassing for him, probably gave him a pretty good beating. And then it was very, very expensive. And they had to try to get on a Saturday, somebody to go out and get another piece of glass like that. And, all of us were like, oh, God, thank God that wasn't me. All you wanted in the whole world was you just knew he just wanted to crawl into a hole and die. But things happen, but that was a really great show because as a zombie, you don't die, so they said, we're going to run you over with a meat truck. We're going to electrocute you. We're going to stab you in the face. We're going to throw you off a catwalk. I'm like, when does this guy die? And they said, you're already dead.
How many movies is this?
Yeah, really. But it was great because as a stunt guy, usually you get your one good scene. And if, your character dies, with this one, no, you could just keep coming back. And I was doing another show at the same time. So I was working nights and days, getting very, very little sleep, and best time of my life. Best time ever. Just all I wanted in the whole world was to make movies. And there I was doing 2 at once, which was nearly unheard of for most people. And I was just right place, right time, and the right body size, to do all that. So very, very fortunate. I mean, just blessed beyond belief.
No, you see, and while all this was going on, I mean, what were you working full time or with this full time?
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of times when you do this kind of work, you have what you call your crappy day job. And then you have, what you do for what you consider to be your living. And then there's the other stuff that pays your bills. And I did everything. I sold photocopiers. I sold pagers. I did a lot of telemarketing, a lot of day gigs. Buddies of mine were throwing uh, dog food on shelves at Vaughn's at 2 o'clock in the morning, because you had to have your days free to get out and hustle. So it was a real challenge to try to keep busy, but I got lucky because of my height, my weight, and the scarcity of guys my size. I was working at least once or twice a month, which doesn't sound like a lot, but as a stunt person, that's quite a bit. And some guys were working, much more than that, but most guys much less. And so I got a series my first year, which was crazy. And I got a stunt coordinating job my first year, which is insane. So just a lot of really fortunate stuff. And then I started doing, if you do one film for one actor, you try to get them to see if they'll bring you out for the next one.
Yeah.
So I worked on Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and then the kid that was on that, I say kid, he's like 3 years younger than me, guy named Ira Hayden. I worked with him on Elvira. And then the kid that I worked with on Nightmare 6 was also in Newsies. And the kid that was in The Lost Boys was also in License to Drive. And so you just try to follow these actors because you make a good double. And if you can make them look good, they'll ask for you back.
No, for sure. And I was going to say, I mean, it helps to have, the stars of the film asking for you, because of course they're going to be like, okay, yeah, whatever you want,
Yeah. Yeah. And again, because of my size, there was I'd say probably about 300 guys in the stunt industry that were really consistently working. And about 5 of them are my height and weight. And so if there was a film like Newsies, all of us are working, every single one of us. And sometimes on the horror films, there'd be a bunch of kids. And so if they, depending on their, sizes, it would just be, all of us had to work because, there was just so many kids in the show. It's a nice little niche to be in for for about 12 years.
I mean, 5 compared to 300. I mean, that's not a lot of competition. So yeah, that's
not a lot of people to beat out. Yeah. And I tell people, I was probably not the best stuntman there was, but I was a stuntman that can act, because I got into the business to be an actor and was a trained actor and did lots and lots of theater and all the different stuff that one does. So when I finally did get chances to act, they would say, hey, we're looking for a stunt guy that can really act. It's like, I'm your boy.
That's it.
And so when those opportunities came up, it was much, much more easy, because the other stunt guys, some of these guys just got into this because, they were rodeo guys, or they were gymnasts, or they were bike riders, and they had the physical skill, but acting wasn't really their thing. And so whenever those came up, I felt like I had the advantage.
No, you see, and I was going to say too, because I've spoken to a few stunt actors from the past, and a lot of them were happy with just being a stunt actor. Like they're like, I'm not an actor, like I'm good, like this is what I do, and that's it. And it's one of those things, I mean, for the most part, I mean, I've been jumping in indie films myself, and it's just like I always tell people, it's not you don't get to choose what you want; it chooses you, because at the end of the day, it's like, this is what I'm good at, and you just go with it.
You're one of the very few who picked that up, because I always have people asking me, what made you want to be in horror movies? I'm like, hunger, rent, and the thing, for the longest time, I was, I'd say kind of, I don't want to say ashamed, but I wasn't terribly proud of the fact that almost everything I did. And then probably 5 years ago, maybe a little less, a buddy of mine started doing horror conventions, like the one you were showing for Cinema Wasteland. And I said, what are they having you do? He says, oh, I come out and I sign pictures. And I said, but who knows? I mean, who even knows it was you? You were a stunt guy. And he goes, well, they do know. And they want to hear stories from behind the scenes. They want to know what it was like to be, working with Wes Craven or Steven Spielberg, or, any of these great guys we got to work with. And I said, but do people care about horror films? He's like, dude, you have no idea.
Like,
there is this. Yeah. And he's like, he goes, you've been killed by Freddy how many times? I'm like, oh, 3. And he's like, that's got to be a record. That's got to be worth something, right? And I thought, well, that's funny. And so I started doing these things. And at first I was kind of like, I didn't know what to think, but you talk to these people to whom these films really were a big part of their growing up, in the same way that maybe, music was to me when I was a kid. These movies meant something.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to a kid in Ohio. We were just sitting shooting the breeze at a convention, and he said, these movies, they saved my life. I was like, how exactly? And he said that he'd been suffering from cancer, and they had told him, you're not probably going to make this.
Wow.
And so he was watch all these horror films, and he just found that there were these final girls, as they like to call them, that just were going to survive, not because they were the strongest, not because they were the fastest, not because they were even the smartest, just because they had this will, this desire, they were just going to survive. That was just their thing.
Yeah.
And he said that I felt like I could be that person. And he's like,
Wow.
so, I beat it. And it's like, damn, you don't realize the effect of the work that you do sometimes. And, I don't say I'm saving anybody's life, but something I was in really inspired somebody. And in the unlikeliest of films, to me. But the fact that they found that, and that they found strength in something that, I was a part of. Yeah. If that doesn't make you feel good, what will, So I really, I've come to sort of stick my chest out. I'm proud of my movies now. I don't have to hide my head and say, yeah, I was in Nightmares, 3.
I got
I
slapped.
can actually, talk about them.
You see, but I mean that's interesting that you said as far as what happened. I mean, because for the most part, like I think the past 2 years, like not to say it's a bad thing, but I mean we keep getting the same actors, the same, and it's like we kind of hear those stories already. So it's like
Yeah.
when individuals like yourself come in, and it's just like now you're like, hey, well, you know what, I was there too, but this is what I saw, this is what I remember, and people are intrigued. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's why you wrote your book.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I've talked to so many different people at these shows, and what they really want, which I'm a storyteller. I've just always have been, is they want to hear something about that movie they couldn't hear anywhere else.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so I'll have some little tidbit. It's like, okay, Nightmare on Elm Street 3. The wheelchair is chasing me down, right? Now look between my feet. And if you don't see those wires, you're blind. And they're like, I never saw the wires. I'm like, watch it again. And it's all you're going to be able to see.
Yeah.
And then they'll say, oh, dude, they'll write to me later, on Instagram or something. Go, dude, I watched the movie with like 10 of my friends, and all we could see is the wires, man. It's so fun. And it really helped them to re-enjoy the film again.
Yeah.
They get to watch it with a fresh set of eyes, with a new, perspective on how it was made. And it makes them laugh, it makes them enjoy the film over again. And it gives them a little behind the scenes, fun. And I love that part. I love giving somebody just a little bit of perspective. And, people, they always wonder, what would it have been like to be a stuntman? It's kind of one of those jobs that people aspire to, but few people really get the chance. And I did, and I couldn't be more grateful. But I recognize that not everybody gets to do their dream job.
Oh, yeah. That's
Most
true.
people probably don't. You probably find a way to tolerate the thing you like well enough, but to be able to say, yeah, that's what I always dreamt of. So when I get a chance to tell people what it was like, I make sure they get a real good clear view of that, and recognize that, yeah, it had its struggles too.
Yeah.
There was a lot of cold macaroni and cheese without the cheese, trying to make ends meet, while you're struggling, but still worth it. I mean, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
I think that's where that whole starving artist comes in.
It's real. It's a very real thing. I remembered just one day going to sleep. I'd been working all night, working at some crappy security job, and my my now ex, had said to me, "Where are you going to get the rent tomorrow?" I said, "Honey, I don't know." She's like, "You got to give this up." And it's like, this is what I do. It's who I am. So she says, "Well, you going to do something?" I said, "I got to sleep." So I get to sleep. I wake up. I go check the mail, and there's a residual check, big enough to pay the rent.
Look at that.
And she goes, "How do you survive like this?" I'm like, I don't know, man. It's the only way I know,
It's
and
like,
it's the only thing in the world that mattered. I hate to say it. When you want to do this kind of work, you kind of forego girlfriends and wives and houses, and the idea is that you're driving around in fancy cars and going to movie premieres, but that's very few and far between. Most of the time it's making ends meet, doing whatever you got to do, and training for the next gig. I got to learn how to get blown up. I got to learn how to do fire gig. I got to learn how to get attacked by a dog. I got to learn how to, do high work or whatever it was. And so you were constantly training so you could be ready for the next thing and be more useful when the time came.
No,
So,
try to practice and learn how to die different ways, right?
Yeah. Like fire is a very dangerous thing to do. And fortunately, I had friends who knew how to do it, and they would teach me how to do that, or how to do a car hit, or how to do, any of these things. I didn't go in knowing a lot of that stuff. So I'd get a stunt, and they'd say, hey, on Monday, we're going to do a car hit. And so I'd call my buddy and go, hey, man, how do you do a car hit? He's like, well, we'll get together on Sunday. You'll be ready by Monday.
He's like, I'll bring my car.
Yeah, exactly. Or actually, what we would do, we would go get those Rent-A-Wreck. Do you remember those? I don't know if they still have that. These old used cars, and if we'd find one that was pretty well beat up anyway, and then they wouldn't notice the dents when we came back. Yeah, it's like, is this blood? No, that ain't blood. I don't know what that is.
I was already there. Yeah, and that's one of those things because, like I mentioned, I mean, I talked to other stunt actors at conventions, and one story that sticks out is him. One of the actors was saying he had gotten injured, and he was like, "Man, I hurt my arm so bad." He said, "But," and I said, "Well, what happened?" And he said, "Man, I taped it up, and I went back to work." He said, "If we don't work, we don't get paid."
It's exactly it. I mean, I've had the dumbest things where I got injured. I got put in a clothes dryer for a stunt, and they spun me around 3 times for a minute each.
Wow!
And think about doing 60 somersaults in a minute.
Jesus Christ!
And every time that thing turned upside down, it would just whack my head on one of the little paddles inside.
Oh, yes.
And I got a concussion, and I don't even know where the hell I am anymore. I'm dizzy like there's no tomorrow, and I'm going to throw up, and somebody's like, and you do this for money. It's like, hey, we're all prostitutes. It's just a question of how much we get for it,
Yeah.
And I broke a rib on a show, and I broke my nose, and it's actually in the film, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. I get my own knees right in my nose.
Oh,
and
damn.
You watch my head just whip back all JFK style, really nasty.
Wow.
And I remember my wife, I get home and she looks at me and I look like hell. And she goes, honey, this isn't right. And I'm like, look, man, if I was a pro football player, you'd say, hey, that comes with the game, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, no, honey. And, I take off my shirt and then my ribs floating around because I'd hit my ribs on something. And she said, this isn't right. You got to not do this. I said, I made $8,000 last night. She goes, oh, we're getting a new couch.
She's like, what are you doing home? Get back to work.
I go, what are you doing? Get back to work, you lazy bum. Yeah.
Oh, man.
So it does come with some perks. And, in the end, it's one of those things. Getting hurt was really, really exceptional. It didn't happen that often because if it did, you weren't really good at what you do.
Right.
Sometimes you got to take chances, but you want to eliminate 99.9% of the chance. You want to go through that stunt note for note, make sure you know every variable. Because if you can't do it twice, maybe you don't get paid because you get paid every time you do it. So if you did a stunt where you were going through a window and you go through that window and you get a piece of glass stuck in your face because you didn't cover yourself up properly, well, now you can't do it again. So they're going to have to call somebody else. You kind of screwed up because now they got to find somebody. They got to get him there immediately because, it's costing,
time is money.
$10,000 an hour, to keep a television show going at that time. So it's very expensive. So, you all wanted to hit your marks. If you were going to do it twice, it wasn't going to be my fault.
Right.
If we were going to do it 8 times, it wasn't going to be my fault. It's going to be your fault. And then that means you have to pay me every time I do it. And so the money was good if you had to do it several times, but you didn't really want to have to do a lot of stuff a lot of times because, the damage adds up, over time.
And I was going to say too, because once again, talking to actors, I mean, I think, God, I forgot what movie it was, but I'm sure a lot of them, were like that. They were like, dude, I mean, it was just one shot, man. We had to nail it. Like they were like, oh, no, let's go. Like knock it out. Boom. Let's go to the next one. And he said, because every time we shot, there was more money they had to pay, and they didn't want to do that.
No, they don't. They want to work quickly. And the other part of it is too, you, sometimes like when I was talking about that thing from Return of the Living Dead, where that big piece of glass got broke, sometimes they only have one set up ready. Maybe they've only got one set of clothes and you just tore it or you just bled all over it or whatever. You don't want to be the reason that things didn't go well. And, most of the time they've got contingencies built in, but here and there, it's funny because you get to the point where somebody says, how do you prepare to go through the window of a car? It's like, how do you prep for that? It's like, you prep for anything. Yeah. And then when it happens, you have to really be able to trust yourself that where you're going to land, that what it's like to go through that and how much resistance you're going to do when you hit that window, so that when you do go through, you go through far enough that you land on the pad outside, and you just get used to that kind of stuff in the same way that, if you see some football player and he just goes up for the ball selflessly and catches on his fingertips, and just knowing that the minute he lands, somebody's just going to take him out right in the rib cage. You kind of say to yourself, well, that's this sport, that's this game. And if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah. I was gonna say, because I know even now, like I hear people, wanting to be a stunt actor or learn stunts, and to learn them, I said, okay, cool, that would be cool to be, but to actually do them, especially, I'm 50, so I'm like, I don't, maybe my 20s, when I had that Superman mentality, but now it's like, nah, bro, like I tell people I've been doing my own stunts since the 80s, falling down by myself, I've had enough of those.
It's funny. We did a thing one time. A bunch of stunt guys were over at a friend's house, and it was a Christmas party. And they brought this little kid in who had just been adopted by one of the couples we were with. And he was from South America and didn't know any English. And all he knew was that there were going to be a bunch of stuntmen there. And he was just overwhelmed with Hollywood movies. It was everything to him. And so I looked over at one of my buddies and I said, I got my gear in the car. And he goes, go get it. So I sneak upstairs with this bag, and we started a bar fight at this party at this house. And he threw me down a flight of stairs. Oh. And he said to me, you ever gone downstairs before? I said, how hard can it be? Gravity does all the work. And that was a bad idea. I went flying through the air. I thought I had to help, and I didn't. The gravity will do all the work. And I think I hit the second stair and then the bottom one real hard. But that little kid's face, just like, completely just, blown away. And it was so much fun because it was like, this was something for him. This was like this new world, and he just met the coolest people in the whole planet. And, we all, kind of were showing him how to do little stuff. He was probably 10 years old, 11 years old. But you recognize that what you do, it's like if you're a 7-foot basketball player or a, 280 pound lineman that can, do the 50 and 4.5, you recognize you are in a unique position. You have opportunities and you've had chances to do things that other people don't. And so hopefully you're proud of yourself. Hopefully you recognize the gift that you've been given, and you use it for good, not evil, and have some fun with it and really appreciate where you are. Because nothing worse than watching somebody who's got it all and doesn't recognize it.
Yeah. You see, and
that's we usually had a good time.
I see that quite a bit, though. There's people with talent, and I'm like, man, like they're like, I don't want to do that, and I'm like, man, you can get paid and do something else. But yeah, it's one of those things. You don't see it till it's too late sometimes, and it's just
you've got to have the right heart for this. I tell people when people tell me I want to be a stuntman, I go, really? What makes you think you'd make a good stuntman? And they go, oh, I'm fearless. I'm like, that is the worst characteristic you could possibly have.
Oh yeah.
Because fearless people go out there and cowboy, and they feel like I'll figure it out on the way down. No, that's not good. That's how people get hurt. Yeah, and so the people I knew that were the best stunt people were always the technical people, the tacticians who knew the math of everything they were doing, knew the timing and were studied and careful and really knew their stuff, because it's supposed to look like it hurt.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to hurt.
No,
So to make it really work, you have to be so in control of everything that's going on, and all the variables that can possibly go wrong are pretty well handled. And so a lot of that too was selling yourself. We used to do this thing called hustling, and hustling meant you'd meet at this restaurant in Burbank, California, and we'd all get together and we'd get the daily call sheets of where people were going to be filming on location, and we'd look at the titles to see what seemed like that might be an action movie, and then you'd go out and you'd try to sneak on the set, try to, get past all the security people, and you'd go up and you'd find the stunt coordinator. Hey, my name's Bill Perry. Wondered if you had anything going on, and they'd say, yeah, we might have something for you later in the week. I'll keep your picture and resume. Better get out of here before they catch you and get out, And so that's what you do every day.
Yeah.
And some people don't have the guts for that. You gotta take your life in your hands. Cause I got thrown out of Universal Studios one time. Like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I work here. Like, on what? On a television show. What television show?
This one.
Yeah. Anyone? Get out of here. And they throw me out. And this is, the days before 9/11, fortunately.
Yeah.
But it was pretty crazy back then. It was very much the Wild West. But you had to be good at that, because when you walk onto the set as somebody, that wants to do a movie, wants to be a stunt guy, they assume you can do anything you say you can do. So why pick you versus another guy? Well, maybe I don't know, maybe you've got a skill somebody else doesn't have. Maybe there's just something about you. You look good. You have the right look for this part. Maybe they're looking for somebody who's a little more professional than the guy they've got who showed up late or wasn't prepared. So you get these chances, and it's not 100% about your ability. Your ability is kind of taken for granted, and you better be able to do it when the time comes, because they're going to be like, dude, you said you could do fire. Why do you look so afraid? It's like, I've never done this before. It's like, no, so you gotta learn your craft. But then again, they assume that you know it, and you walk on set and get to work, and be ready from 5 a.m. until 6 p.m. And know that they may call you in 5 minutes or not at all.
No, yes.
So, you're there, you get there at 6 a.m. they put your makeup on, and you're like, when are we going to shoot? And they said, oh, we'll probably get to you around 4. Like, 4 p.m.? And like, yeah, but it could be noon, or it might be 11, or it might be not. Maybe it'll be tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so that whole time you're trying to stay loose. You're trying to be ready to do whatever it is they got you to do, whether it's a fight or crash or whatever it is it's going to be. You got to be ready for it. So it's still fun. I mean, I'm not going to make like it was misery. It wasn't. It was the most fun I ever had with my pants on. So that said, it's not, there's a lot of waiting around. There's a lot of, kind of just trying to be ready for whatever comes, whatever happens, and do a good job, because you're only as good as your last job. You screw the pooch one time, boy, you'd be surprised how that gets around.
No, yeah.
You don't get to be bad. You don't get to be bad twice.
No, for sure. And I was going to say too, because like the films that I've been fortunate to jump on, I mean, they're here locally, indie films. And when I'm not shooting, like I'm doing BTS, like I'm taking photos, I'm doing video. I mean, especially now with the phone, right? I mean, back then I'm sure.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can get done.
Camera, and all that other.
Yeah, it's funny. Just recently, we were talking about Return of the Living Dead. Somebody sent me a clip, and it's a picture of me, very skinny, very young, and the director's going, "This is point of impact," and he's pointing at me, and he says, "Yeah, he's going to be standing here, and the truck's going to be over here, and then the truck's going to stop here." And I don't remember anybody shooting any behind the scenes stuff. And there I am. And then they show the rehearsal of him hitting me for the first time. And it was just like, oh my God, I forgot about so much of this stuff. You see, and then somebody else sent me another one from Nightmare on Elm Street 3. And there's this scene where this wheelchair is chasing me. And I forgot that they had actually put the wheelchair mounted on the back of or on the front of a ATV. And he's chasing me all over the place. And it's like, oh my God, that's so funny. I forgot that they did it that way. But it was really fun to see the behind the scenes stuff. And now, since everybody's got a, 4K camera, carrying around in their pocket, you can get a lot more. And I'm starting production on my own film based on a book that I wrote a couple of years ago. And it's like you said, small independent feature. And yeah, I've got a camera sitting right over here that's just for behind the scenes stuff, because I want to be able to document this, because I didn't imagine I'd be making films at 61, but here we are. And it's an interesting process to go through all this, as you know. I mean, it's when you're doing it real shoestring budget, and you get the people together, and everybody's got to be committed to doing the best work in the shortest amount of time, because you got no money and we got no sets. We're gonna have to sneak in there, and we're gonna have to take a bunch of video real quick and get the hell out.
Gorilla, man, go out there and grab whatever footage you can.
Now we're going to try to do a little better than that if we can, but the more money we get, the more fun we'll have, actually.
No, for sure. And I was gonna say, if you need a stunt guy, I can do fire. I can learn. I can learn, and then I'll go out there and I'll do the job.
It's funny. It's a horror story, but there's very little gore that you would actually see, and there's only 2 stunts in the whole film. And people have said, "God, as a stuntman, I'd have thought you'd have written in 100 of them." And I thought you'd have, as a guy who's been in so many horror films, I thought you'd have this thing be, Terrifier 12. But that's just not the way the story came to me. It's very, very, very sad, sort of disturbing stuff. Every time people read it, they go,
"Who are you?
Like, what's wrong with you, man? What makes you think of crap like that?" And I don't know. I'm normally a pretty funny guy, but this isn't funny.
Probably all that tumbling.
Very disturbing.
I said probably all that tumbling, or that time you hit your head on the dryer.
All those hits to the head. It's funny. My wife won't even read it. My wife, I told her the basics, and she's a psychologist, and she said, too weird, too screwy. I don't want to know what's going on in that brain of yours. And my friends who actually appear in the film didn't know they're going to appear in the film. They're like, "Wait a minute, am I Emerson?" And, yeah. Like, "You did me wrong, bro." Like, "Yeah, sorry, man." And they're like, "Oh, that's screwed up." It's like, you're dark, man. It's like, I guess we all are somewhere around there. In there. But it was just, I had a nightmare like 2 years ago, worst thing I could ever imagine. And I just wrote down some notes as soon as I woke up, because it was so frightening. And I sent it to a publisher that I do audiobooks for. And he goes, "That's the scariest story I ever heard." And I said, "Really? You like it?" And he goes, "You going to write?" "Nah, I'm not a writer." So after a couple of months, he said, "Can I write it?" And I said, "Oh, please." And then after another couple of months, he still hadn't done anything. And I said, "I'm going to take a swing at it." And he really liked it and published it 2 months later.
No way.
And then I started seeing some sales, and I did the audiobook. And then there's a site called Chilling. You ever heard of the Chilling app?
Oh, yeah.
They put both my books actually on there. And then people are saying, "Hey, this would make a good film." And so I wrote the screenplay and sent it out, and people said, "Oh my gosh, this is really, really solid." I'm like, "Yeah?" Like, "You seem surprised." I'm like, "Yeah, well, I am." I didn't think the first thing I wrote would be, usually, it's the 5th thing you wrote. It's the 10th thing you wrote, It's not usually your first is the winning, the winning piece. But here we are, and I'm really, really excited to be doing it. Like, so just because I don't give a crap about the money, I just want to make a great movie.
Yeah.
I want people to see this thing and go, "That screwed me up." It was 3 or 4 days before I could stop thinking about, what happened in that thing. And you suck, man.
Thank you for ruining my adulthood.
Yeah, thanks for the trauma. But it's fun, because when people will do that, they'll say, "So what did it? What caused the events?" And I'm like, "What do you think?" Like, I don't want to know what I think. I want to know what it was. And I'm like, "Does it bother you?" And like, "Yeah, it's bothered me a lot." It's like, "Welcome to horror." Like, "So you're not going to tell me?" I'm like, "Nah." And they're like, "That's screwed up, dude. I got to know." It's like, okay, if I told you, it might ruin it.
Yeah.
I want it to sit with you. And what my favorite films I watched recently was movie Nope. And my family and I sat after watching that movie, and we're having ramen, and we're chowing down, and we can't stop talking about this film. And my wife said, "Did you enjoy it?" I wouldn't be talking about it for 2 hours if I didn't. I just don't think I understood it entirely. And we sort of worked it out over the course of dinner. And I thought, that's a good movie where you really find yourself wrapped up in the characters and the situations enough that you really want to feel like you grasped what was going on there. And I thought, oh yeah, I'd like to see my film do that too. it's like I said, mine's not a real gore fest. I'm not a big fan of like really, really extreme
No,
gore.
same here, man. I'm stuck on the 80s. You know, my thing is like I told people, my imagination's already running wild. So if I see a machete and I see somebody falling, I already know what happened.
Yeah, no,
Like,
I
boom.
don't need to see it actually penetrate,
Yeah,
and go through
yeah,
halfway through their head. In fact, I was talking to one of the, I was talking to the director of photography, and we were talking about certain scenes, and I said, you know, um, if you ever watch the movie Alien, for the first 45 minutes of the movie, you don't even know what the alien looks like.
no.
And the actresses, Sigourney Weaver and Veronica Cartwright, they look at the monster, and the look on their face tells you everything you need to know about what they're looking at, and it ain't good.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever it is, it's pretty freaking scary, man. Because look at the look on that woman's face. And as an actress, those women are looking at a tennis ball on the end of a stick. They didn't know what the monster looked like, until much later in the filming.
Oh, yeah.
So they kept it from them.
Yeah.
They just said, this is going to be something very scary. And so to me, the terror you felt in seeing Veronica Cartwright's face looking at whatever it was just
That was
about to do
terrifying
her
enough,
in. That was enough. Yeah, I didn't want to know what that damn thing was.
man.
I want people to watch my movie doing this.
Yeah.
I want them to look through their knees and their hands going, holy shit. Holy shit.
You see, and then that's one of those things because I used to read a lot of books, a lot of novels, and mostly serial killer, mass murder. That was my thing. And like I used to take the Greyhound bus a lot. I used to go to Florida, come back, and I would sit there and I would read. And there was times when I'd be talking to somebody and I'm like, hey man, remember that movie when this happened? And they're like, dude, what movie is that? And I'm like, oh crap, that was a book. Like, I was just like, dude, like never mind. Like,
one of my favorite books of all time is Stephen King's The Stand.
Oh yes, yes.
Big old monster, and I read it in 3 days. It was
Wow.
just, it had me. I just couldn't stop. I was just obsessed with it. And when I saw the movie, and they've made a couple different movie versions and a couple of TV versions, it was like, no, that's not what they look like. No, that's not what they sound like. Because I got very vivid pictures in here. I know exactly what they look like.
That's funny you say that because I've done the same thing when it comes to like I'll watch a film and I'm like, I don't remember that happening. And I don't remember that character because in my head I sound like a monster or whatever. And then the movie it's like some kid and I'm like, okay, what happened? Like what's going on? But yeah, that's wow. Okay.
It's tough to shoot a movie that's exactly like the book, even if you do. When they did The Stand, I think it was like 14 episodes, 14 2-hour episodes.
Yeah.
But even still, there's so much detail in a good book about who these people are and where they came from and every little detail, which you can't really do in a film. You've only got so much time. But still, I look forward to, like when I wrote my book, the screenplay is twice as long as the book. Because the book's really almost like a short story, whereas the film has to be 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And so I added some new characters, I added some new mayhem, but I had to be careful not to create people just so I could murder them, So that was kind of something somebody warned me against. Don't create characters that don't matter just so you can kill them. People have to matter, or it won't matter that they die. So that's something you got to kind of, as you look at these things, it's like, you think about movies that just become, new ways to dice up teenagers. And I didn't want that for mine. I wanted it to be something where people have told me that they got to this particular scene and they're like, I stopped reading for a couple of days. I'm like, really? And they're like, it was just too intense. I'm like,
wow.
Okay, good. And they're like, you seem to be happy about that. I'm like, I am.
I did my job.
Because I created a character that mattered to you.
Yeah.
And she mattered so much that when something happened to her, it really affected you emotionally.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, man, of course it did. I'm like, that's my creation. That's my little thing. I created something that messed with your brain a little bit. There's something very, I don't know, kind of fun about that. Just to realize that you had the opportunity to create something that really got in somebody's head. And that it's completely my, I was in a lot of movies, but I never did it all by myself. This is something all by myself. And so now making the movie version of it, I get a chance to invite other people in, excuse me, to get them to help me bring out, visually what I had, as an idea. So
No,
I'm
no,
really
for
looking
sure.
forward to it. Yeah, we're going to start filming probably in September. And by next year, we'll get it out on Hulu and Netflix and all those places. And I can't wait for people to see it. It's an obsession now.
They might not look at you the same afterwards, man, but
I've had people tell me they won't eat with me anymore.
Oh,
There
okay.
was this
There you
lady
go.
and a very good friend named Jenny in Ohio. If you're out there, Jenny, hey, she said, I really want to read your book. And she bought it. She came back the next day at the show and she bought like 5 more copies for everybody in her family. I said, you can just pass the book around. She said, no, I want them all to have their own copy. And she said to me, I said to her before she read it, I said, look, she said, you should come over to our place for dinner tomorrow night. I said, read the book and then you won't want me over for dinner. I promise you. Because there's a scene in there where you don't want to eat with me no more.
Yeah.
And book 2 is even worse. But it's fun to kind of go there in your mind and just see how twisted and effed up you can be.
Yeah.
There's a couple of scenes where people they just look at me and they're like, oh God, what is wrong with you? And it's like, that's the reaction I was hoping for. I'm a very nice guy. I'm very friendly, not a violent guy. But I think we all have that side of ourselves where it's like, yeah, if I just let my anger and my frustration and my terror at the world just go rampant, where would it go? Let's just find out for a few paragraphs, see what happens. And I did, and it connects with people, which I think is the thing I'm most proud of. Not that anybody thinks I'm some Stephen King, but because what I wrote did manage to get inside their head. And they said, one of the guys said to me, I really feel like I'm in this guy's skin. It's like,
Wow.
I like that. That's
Yeah,
not
that's good
a horrible
compliment,
thing to say. I'll take that. If you had 100 terrible things to say, I'll take that one good one.
man. I was gonna post this up. I had a question. It's actually a local
Yeah.
here. It says, just logged in. Love your work, Mr. Perry. Can you touch on the subject of insurance? I heard it costs a lot for stuntman insurance.
It
What all do
doesn't.
you pay?
Actually, it's a great question. I hear that one every now and then. But actually, the Screen Actors Guild if you're a working member of the guild and you make over $27,000 a year these days, it was a little less back then. But what they do is if you make a union minimum per year of, I think now it's about $27,000 a year, you get full coverage insurance. So if you get hurt or whatever, it's just like any other job where you've got medical insurance.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost more, doesn't cost less, because you think about it, there's plenty of dangerous jobs out there. I know plenty of guys who've worked in construction got hurt way worse than I ever got.
Yeah.
They fell off of something, a nail gun shot through their finger or, something like that. So it's actually not as bad as you think. I mean, I think about 12 years, broke my nose, broke a rib, broke my wrist practicing. That one sort of doesn't count. And the concussions, many. I think I had 7 concussions through my career. Most of those are the kind of things that happen when you're a dumbass. There's a great line somebody said the other day about the difference between, the word courage describes knowing that something's going to hurt and doing it anyway. But the word stupid is defined similarly.
Yeah. Oh man, I knew you were.
That's what makes life hard. Am I being courageous? Am I being stupid? And it's one of those things when you're 25 years old, 27 years old, and you're invincible. Nothing's going to happen to you. You got all the bravado and swagger because you're young and stupid. You don't know you don't know that when you get 61, all that stuff's going to come back and haunt you.
Yeah.
So the insurance was never really an issue. And again, I got hurt on the job a couple of times, but not so bad that I even went to the hospital for it.
Yeah.
When I broke my nose, I broke it, put it back in place and put some tape across it like they do at the hospital.
That's work.
The rib that got broken healed eventually by itself. It was a crack that went all the way through and it was kind of floating around and bumping up against edges every now and then. Damn. But even then, nothing I had to go to the doctor for. But stuff does happen. I mean, here and there, I lost some friends. A gal I know hit a high fall pad badly and became a C-spine injury. And so she never walked again. And guy I know they were working on a car they were going to blow up. and he was over there checking to see what was going to happen with the car, and it just blew up. Nobody knows why.
Wow, man, that's wow. Yeah.
Same year, another guy was in a helicopter, and they were just flying from A to B to figure out what path they were going to do. Nobody knows why. The pilot took him into the hill, and so the stuff that happened wasn't even really in the middle of filming.
Yeah.
So it's not that I think, oh, everybody's got their number, and one day, your number comes up. I think it's just life. Sometimes things happen, and people die in car crashes on the way to work, going all the time. Sad but true. And so I think I just kind of went along with the idea that live your life the best you can. Tomorrow's not guaranteed anyway.
No,
So
no,
go out and
sure.
have some fun and do the things that make you feel good to be alive and make you feel proud of what you do. And, go out there and pursue whatever that, magical thing is that makes you feel like, it's everything you wanted. So I never really worried too much about that. And fortunately, I didn't have to take advantage of it too often.
No,
That's a
no,
great
for sure.
question, though. Thanks for that question, whoever said that.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure he did. I have another one actually. Where is
Far
it?
away. Oh, I see. There's lots of questions in there. Okay, I didn't even look at the.
Did you see Danny Glover?
Did I see Danny Glover? I honestly did not. The scenes that I was in, he was not in. I mean, I saw him on the set here and there and waved to him, said hello. But more, it was just about the people that were in the scene. Bill Paxton and Maria Conchita Alonso were people I got to meet that I, was like, oh my gosh. Bill Paxton's just the coolest guy ever. I have the Bill Paxton story someplace on YouTube where he took me under his wing a little bit because I was scared shitless. And he'd said something about what are you doing here today? And I'm dressed up in this gang outfit. And, you can tell I'm street. Yeah. And I said, oh, I'm just a gang member. And he goes, don't say it that way. And I said, come on, man. And he goes, did you ever see Terminator? I said, of course. I mean, who didn't see Terminator? He goes, opening scene, Arnold's naked and he's looking for clothes. And there's those three guys. They're kind of like gang members, right? And I said, yeah. He goes, that was my first, real role where anybody really noticed who I was.
Oh, wow.
And I said, oh, that's very cool. And he said, today's that day for you. Today's the day that you get to be that guy. And you're going to go to a movie theater in a year and you're going to see your face 90 feet across some big ass screen someplace. And it's going to be the best day ever, man. He says, today is when that all starts. Don't let this day pass. Don't let it go by too quick. Don't get so nervous that you forget to have a good time. Because this is what you've been working for since you were a little kid, right? I was like, yeah, that's all very true. And he says, don't let this day go. Just really just deep breath, relax, do your best work. Because that's all anybody wants from you.
Yeah.
And it changed my world, man. It was just, all of a sudden I was relaxed and I was so excited to do this thing. And I had the best week of my life. I mean, it was just, sorry, honey, our wedding week was great too. Yeah. No, the kids were good too, but, but it was just this wonderful time. And because he took the time to just, say hi to, some scared kid, it really changed a lot. And I'll always remember that. And I share that advice with anybody that's ever going on the set, ever gets that chance, no matter what it is, whether it's the set or just whatever job it is that you're really excited about. Don't let it go, man. Days, you don't know how many days you're going to get. Today may be one of the last ones. You don't know. So really enjoy it. Spend the time, digging it. And if people think that you're a nerd, suck it. It doesn't matter. Have a good time.
No, for sure, man. And I mean, that is deep though, because I mean, one of the things, I'm going to put this question up when I'm talking, but one of the things that, where is it at? What is one of the favorite movies?
Favorite movies. There's lots of different reasons to have a favorite. Favorite one to watch? Probably Lost Boys. I love that movie. So cool. So hot. It was just a great flick. But favorite to do? Probably Predator 2. Because that was my first time getting to speak in front of the camera. And that was just, what a day. Just everything I ever wanted to do. I walk onto the set, and as you go into this huge soundstage, there's a plaque that says, Wizard of Oz was filmed on this location in 1932. Wow. You're like, this is the same room. The same room where they did freaking Wizard of Oz, man. This is movie history.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, just what a place to be, right? And just the magic of that. And I look around and the sets are like, oh, I mean, I walk into this set where it's the alien ship, and there's all the skulls, and you can see the alien, from the movie Aliens in there, just as a little, kind of side joke. And I just remember walking around going, this is exactly everything I dreamt of from the time that I was in fourth grade, wanting to be in movies, having a nice little speaking role, having people call you Mr. Perry and carry your bag for you and, bring your lunch to you and, treat you like you're a movie star. And, you think, well, something like that, it'll never live up to the dreams you had when you were as a kid. No freaking way. It was even better. It was so much fun. And like I said, I just remember thinking to myself, this is what I wanted. And here I am. That's a very rare thing, to be able to have everything you ever wanted in a moment. And then, like I say, Bill Paxton being so cool, and this, Kevin Peter Hall, the guy that played the Predator, 7'2", I think, or 7'4". Put him in the suit; he's another foot taller. And I'm standing next to this guy, and I was just like, it's a monster movie. Come on, this just keeps getting better. So really, just probably, if you had to say, favorite all around, got to be that one, just because it just fulfilled every childhood dream I had.
No, for sure. You see, and that's one of the things. I mean, because I've been in, I still cover combat sports. I mean, I was a photographer. I used to, I've covered the UFC, I've covered Bellator, like all the big promotions. I've been in the same room with Dana White. I've been sitting next to Mark Cuban. I've been like, I mean, people that, I'm watching on TV now, and I'm like, damn, I was sitting next to that guy.
Yeah.
Or I was talking to this guy. Like, me and Mark Cuban had a good conversation, man. I'll put it like this. I had no idea who he was. I'm not a sports guy. When they introduced us, they were just like, "Hey, this is Mark. Hey, this is Mario," and I'm just like, "Hey, how's it going?" He's in the t-shirt and jeans, so we were just talking and just living it. I mean, I don't know. It was just weird. So when I saw him on TV and they were like, "Oh, owner of so and so," and I'm thinking like, "What the world?" Like, I'm like, dude, like that's.
In my experience, the biggest and best are usually the chillest, because they got nothing to prove. They've proven it. I worked with Tim Curry, Frankenfurter from Rocky Horror Picture Show, and I was so starstruck. He was just, I mean, I saw that movie every Saturday night at the Rialto Theater, Pasadena, California, for about 4 years. We'd go, watch Rocky Horror and get tanked and, have a good time. And there I am working with him, and he just couldn't have been more pleasant. Just the nicest guy, not full of himself, no diva, aspect of it at all. Just another working actor who was very friendly. George Burns, I don't know if you'd know who he is, but this is a guy, freaking legend from back in the radio days, for God's sakes. Got to sit next to him for a day and do a scene with him. Couldn't have been nicer, and it's really, those legendarily amazing guys and gals that are out there, they are that way because this is who they are. They recognize that they've gotten someplace really, lofty and very hard to get to. And for the most part, they're pretty chill about it. I've seen a few actors that weren't much fun, a little full of themselves, but most of the time they were just cool. Christian Bale, I've heard bad stuff about him, but met him on Newsies. Couldn't have been a nicer guy. Dedicated, smart, creative, intense, just the coolest guy, though. And I just remember thinking that guy is destined for so much bigger things. And sure enough, of course, he was. So like I said, it's an interesting group of people to work with, because when you work on a movie, people will ask me, "Hey, have you seen, this person or that person?" It's like, hey man, I don't see these people. It's a small community of actors and stuntmen, but it's still a pretty big city.
Yeah.
And so I worked with a bunch of the guys from People Under the Stairs last year at a convention, and I hadn't seen him since.
Wow.
So 35, 36 years, and you say hi, you give him a hug, and what have you been doing for the last 35 years? But and we all try to keep busy, and we all try to keep working and doing the things that we do. But it's a lot of times you just you work with these people once, you may never see them ever again. But they're usually an incredibly creative group that are very, very focused on just doing the best they can to make the best movie or television show possible. And if you don't like them, hey man, you're not gonna be working with them for more than 6-8 weeks.
Yeah.
I can put up with anybody for that period of time, and
Oh,
they
yeah.
can put up with me most likely.
If not, throw you out the window, right? Or do some
Yeah,
stuntman.
well, it's funny you say that. I was watching this. I put together a reel of some of the stuff I'd done for another show that I was doing. And I thought, man, do I ever go through a door? God, every time I leave a room, I'm getting thrown through a window. I got to learn how to use a doorknob. Went through the back of a bus, went through the side of a house. Well, everybody, nobody lets me just go out the door, and they throw me out too. I don't just get, I don't just fall. I get thrown.
Yeah. Man, and I had another question. Well, actually, this was the first one they had, but it was it's asking how long have you been
How
doing it?
long? Yeah, I did stunts for about 12 years. I think from the time I was about 24 till time I was 36. So 12 solid years. Gave it up around 36 because I was too old for this stuff. It is a young man's game. And if you move into stunt coordinating, you get to get more years out of it. But once you become a stunt coordinator, you usually don't do most of the stunts. You'll do one here and there that you think would be fun, and you just want to get some screen time because you get more residuals. But I did it for 12 years, which is a pretty good career. I know folks who've done longer. I know folks who did a lot less, but 12 years was a pretty good stint. That was working, relatively steady enough to make a pension, which is kind of nice. Not much, but something. But it was a good time. It's like, so there's a time when you say to yourself, is this worth it anymore? Are those stuff heals a lot slower at 36 than it did at 24.
Oh yeah.
Stuff don't grow back anymore, falls off and now it doesn't grow back. But yeah, so 12 years is a pretty good long time. I have a good buddy of mine, a guy named Alan Robinson, just recently wrapped up, and he started at the same time I did. But he was a stunt coordinator and was doing all sorts of different shows. He wasn't doing the super crazy stuff anymore, but he kept it up for a very long time.
Yeah, and so I mean, of course, they can. I mean, that's a possibility, right? I mean, like you said, you just don't stay on it 100%. So
Yeah, I mean, and because of he was Tom Hanks's double for a long time, and so he did films as Tom got older. He got older too, and so he made a pretty good double Clint Eastwood, doubled a lot of guys, and he had some major movie stars that kind of kept him along as they got bigger and bigger. A lot of the actors that I worked with, they had their time, and then they didn't. Then they kind of wore off, and they didn't move on and become older, more mature acting talent. They were kid actors that, once they weren't kids anymore, they weren't actors anymore.
right.
So that changes. And as the, horror films sort of died out for a while, and so a lot of the demand for somebody like me kind of went with it. No regrets.
Man, but you see, I mean, that's where the whole life after starts, because of course now, I mean, from actually being an author and now actually working on your first film. So I mean, that's just like an evolution.
Yeah, right? Yeah. It's interesting to kind of be coming back at it because it was something I kind of saw myself, hey man, I'm getting my 60s. I'm going to be, getting on that slow pony and riding slowly into the sunset. But as I got to about 60, all of a sudden my creative side just took a jump. And all sorts of new opportunities seem to be just popping up in front of me. And you got to honor that, I feel like when this thing's done, this will probably be the best thing I ever did. I'm certainly committed to it. And I've got some nice people working with me on it, some really talented people who believe in what we're trying to do. And it's funny that it's horror because I always tell people I'm not a horror fan. I wouldn't have read my book if I hadn't written it. And I probably wouldn't see this movie if I didn't make it.
Yeah.
But it's funny to find yourself in that position where it's like, yeah, I think I have a few got a few rodeos left, to run. And I'm looking forward to seeing what this year carries. Got a lot of work to do before September, but really looking forward to it. I can't wait to get started. It's worth getting up every morning,
No, for sure. And I mean, of course, like I had posted earlier, I mean, you are going to be doing conventions, but are you going to stay busy with that, or?
Yeah. I've got one coming up. Well, a couple coming up in Ohio. I'm going to be doing one in April called the Cinema Wastelands, which you showed the picture for. Thank you. And then there's another one in I think it's August or September called Erie Horror Fest.
Oh yes, another one.
That one. And we're going to do something out here in LA. They're having a Predator and Predator 2 sort of double feature, and myself and a guy named Richard Chavez, who was one of the leads in Predator, is going to come out, and we show the movie, and we kind of do a little sort of running commentary and have some laughs. And so I do conventions when I've got an agent now who calls me here and there. It's not as I've got so much other things going on right now. I can't do too much of it, but I do love doing it. When people come out and people are always so nice. You know, I used to think horror fans were going to be freaky. But I was Wes Craven's web developer for a while. When I got out doing stunts, I decided I was going to go into web development. It seemed like a good place to make a decent salary. And I started doing Wes's website. And I said, aren't you afraid of these people? I mean, some of these people are downright Looney Tunes. And he said, you know, not everybody's had the comfortable sort of existence that you and I have had. Some people live very tough lives. And when they watch these movies, they watch the survival aspect. And they identify with that lead character, and they feel like, you know, hey, if she can survive all this, I can survive all this. I thought that's pretty deep. You know, that's pretty interesting. And he said most of these people are just folks, you know, this is their thing. I mean, you go to these conventions, it's hilarious. The cosplay is out of control.
Oh yeah, they go
the
wild.
Creativity and the artwork these people do is people will bring me these hand painted, you know, Predators or hand painted Lost Boys posters that they did for themselves. And they're like, can you sign it? I'm like, God, I don't want to ruin it. This is gorgeous. And they're like, oh, thanks. But, you know, it won't be complete until you sign it. It's like, oh, that's so cool. You know, and how do you not feel, you know, excited and invigorated when somebody comes up to you and they just want 30 seconds of your time, you know, a minute of your time. And I don't usually have, you know, terribly long lines. So I get to hang out with people, and, you know, sometimes I'll invite them back. We'll have a beer and we'll just hang out and wait till a line forms before I start talking to anybody else. and it's fun because I like getting to know other people, you know. They ask about, you know, what it's like to be a stuntman. I'm like, well, what is it like to do what you do? I mean, you know, everybody's life has value and interest and is fascinating. Just because you don't think it is doesn't mean I don't. And so it's fun to just get to know people from all over the country. You live in LA, you get this, you know, little microcosm of the world, and it's not as fake and phony as everybody says, but it's not as, you know, I went to Alabama last year and met some of the nicest people. They take me out for catfish and grits, and, you know, we're sitting around the table just telling stories, and, you know, that's real life, you know, and just good down home people, no falseness, no, you know, they're just who they are, and they love movies, and I love movies, so we got that in common, and we can just sit and shoot the shit and drink a 12-pack, you know, in a 10 minutes, you know, just having fun.
No, for sure, man. And I'm hoping. I mean, I am here in Texas. I know there's a few conventions, events coming up.
Yeah, you got some stuff going on, and you got stuff going down in Brownsville, I know, coming up, and San Antonio's got a show coming up. So yeah, my agent tries to get me out there when he can, and when I'm available and when it all works out. But yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do. I mean, I know some folks make just a stink load of money at doing these conventions. Not so much for me. It's worth it to go. It's a lot of travel, and the travel's not always so fun, but the time spent, you know, hanging with people and just, you know, just like say telling stories and doing those panels and stuff where people will talk about their favorite moments in the film, and you get to give them some little, you know, behind the scenes, you know, secret about it. And then it just lights them up. And that's the whole fun. You know, that's what it's all about.
And that's the thing too, because I mean, like myself, I do a lot of the Q&A panels. Like I'm the moderator, so I get to talk, and then everybody's like, "Man, how are you so comfortable?" And I'm like, "Man, I want to hear. I have questions. Like I want to know what's going on." So I mean, it's like, you know, for the most part, it's conversation, you know, and it's I haven't had any complaints yet, you know, but I always make them fun, and I always just, you know, my thing is in life is when I make people laugh, then everybody's like mellow. Everybody's like drops their guard. It's just like, you know what, let's talk. You know, sit back and have a conversation, man.
Well, I tell you, I'm going to hook you up. my buddy Lee Waddell was the original Ghostface in Scream. And my other buddy, Alan, was the Ghostface in Scream 2. And my other friend, Jeff Brockton, is this Ghostface from Scream 3. All three of these guys. And they said, hey, hook us up with Mario. We want to do a show. I'm not kidding. They really do.
No,
They said,
I was going to say, but we'll do a Ghostface convention, bro. Let's do it.
Seriously, they're doing a show in Vegas. I think it's March 29th. I think it just got announced. They're doing a show in Vegas where it's going to be just the three of them, not a whole big convention, just those three guys.
Yeah.
And you sit, you have dinner, you have a couple of drinks. They tell some stories. You hang out. You get your pictures done if you want them. It's all built into the cost of this thing. And it's just we did one of these for Nightmare on Elm Street a few months back. Where we had the cast of Nightmare on Elm Streets 3 and 4. And it was so much fun because it's not the convention vibe.
Oh, yeah.
You're there to hang out. There's a food truck. We sit, we're having beers, we're talking to the people, we're having tacos, and just hanging out at the table. And they're like, it's so cool just to be able to hang out with you. It's like, tell me about it. Because, you do a convention, you get maybe 2-3 minutes to talk to somebody and you got to rush them off, because you got people. But you do one of these things, you just hang out and, we're all fans. I tell people I'm as big a fan as Nightmare on Elm Street as anybody is. And just because I was in it doesn't change anything. It makes me even more of a fan, I guess. And so when you do these shows, it's just really a hoot. But they said, if you're doing a podcast, hook us up with that Mario guy.
Yeah, man.
You got a nice following and, obviously you got lots of listeners. And they said, we want to go on there. We want to tell people what we're doing.
No, for sure, man. I mean, I'm game. I always go out there and try to reach as many people as I can. But I appreciate you. Thank you for jumping on here. I would love to bring you back, and as it gets closer to, you being able to tell us a little bit more about this film, man.
Because and if anybody wants to, I'm just going to give a little plug. The book By His Hand is available on Amazon. It's $1. So if you think you might be intrigued, waste a buck. If you want to listen to the audiobook, I think it's $4. Go ahead. Yep, that's actually the movie poster. The book, it looks a little bit different. It looks like a bloody hand doing this.
Okay.
In fact, do I have one around here? I got one around here somewhere. Maybe somewhere in all this mess. Hopefully you don't see the rest of the mess that is my world over here. But it's a good little book. If you're looking for a good spooky story, it's only an hour. People say to me, why is it so short? It's like, because it scared the crap out of me. And I didn't like
You're like, that's it.
Spending a lot of time in that world, man. It's pretty gnarly stuff.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm definitely, I'll be plugging that in because I am interested in I'm curious, I want to read it. I might not bring you back after that. So who knows, but we'll see.
Absolutely.
Kidding, by the way.
Yeah, maybe not. You're like, I was going to have Bill back on, but that's a twisted mofo. And I don't know that I don't want him to know where I live.
Yeah, if I ordered the book, it might be too late, right? Or who sent it? Does it send it from Amazon?
Yeah, you can get it from Amazon, or you can listen to it on Spotify.
So I'm an audiobook guy, man.
Whatever. Yeah, the audiobook is read by me, so you'll get the vibe that I'm going for with it. But the film is longer, deeper. The characters are a lot more developed, which I think is kind of fun. But it's a whole different thing. When you write a book, you can say he thought to himself. Yeah. In a movie, if he didn't see it, if you didn't hear it, didn't happen. So you have to write kind of like a whole the whole opposite. You got everything's got to be seen. You can't just imagine anything. It has to be shown. But I think it's going to be really solid, and I'm really looking forward to just to know that people saw it. Anytime anybody leaves me a review for the book, even if they didn't like it, and not a lot of people have said they didn't like it. One person gave me 2 stars. They didn't say why. But just knowing that they read it and they spent the time with it, that's pretty cool. You feel like you created something and it's out there.
Yeah, for sure. And that's one of the things I tell people. I said, the fact that I have the podcast, I said, I don't care how they react. If they hate it, as long as they react to it, give me a thumbs down. Do say something, but
because you're here to give them something, and you can't. It's a gift. You don't have to open it, but I wish you would.
Yeah, definitely. My man. Well, I do thank you. Thank you for your time. I will be bringing you back though, regardless. Whether I read the book, after I read the book, should I say? But thank you, man. It was great talking to you. And of course, we'll be doing this again.
All right, man. Thanks everybody for watching and for the questions.
Don't hang up yet, my man. Everybody out there, of course, once again, Spider here, coming soon podcast.